my daughter will be, she would be 26. She would have been 26, October 26th of this year.
Oh, they turn these folks' house up.
Let me get out.
At 5, the murder charge against Dylan Black may be dismissed, but the case isn't closed. The investigation of the late-night shooting death of Felita Bailey is ongoing, says 47th District Attorney Jason Herring. Black remains a suspect.
Picture this: a mother receiving a call not from the police or the hospital, but from the news, informing you that your only child was brutally murdered. You rush to find answers, only to be met with silence from the authorities. Left to piece together the fragments of your daughter's final moments. How would you cope? What would you do? Stay tuned for all the shocking details. And if you are new here, like and subscribe for more true crime stories. Well, this is the heartbreaking story of Felita Bailey, a vibrant young woman whose life was taken too soon. On August 31st, 2024, a senseless act of violence at a late-night party in Amarillo, Texas, forever altered the lives of her family and friends. Felita, an ambitious woman on the verge of completing her certification as a dental hygienist, was murdered when she rejected the advances of a man with a violent history, Dylan Black. This is not just a tale of a tragic crime, but also of a mother's relentless pursuit of justice in a system that appears to be turning its back on her.
Investigating a homicide that occurred during a Labor Day weekend after party. The family of the victim, Felita Bailey, wants justice and answers. ABC 7's Reagan Lopez has that story.
As we explore the story of Felita's life, death, and the aftermath, we will look into the deeper issues of systemic injustice, the failures of law enforcement, and a mother's unyielding quest to ensure that her daughter's death is not in vain. Please like, share, and subscribe to support this story and others like it. Join us in the fight to demand accountability and reform. If you believe in justice and oppose violence, stay with us until the end. Your voice matters. Together, we can ensure that Felita Bailey's story is heard and remembered.
Responded after a fight started that spilled into the street where shots were fired. Felita Bailey and another victim were taken to the hospital where Felita died.
She spent her last moments fighting men.
On the night of August 31st, 2024, Felita Bailey attended a party in Amarillo, Texas, a seemingly harmless gathering after a night out. The party started innocuously enough, but it soon spiraled into chaos as the number of guests swelled beyond control. What was supposed to be a small event exploded into a full-blown house party, with about 40 uninvited guests arriving.
Let me get out.
Who house is this? Damn!
Felita, who had been out celebrating with her cousin and friends, was unfamiliar with many of the people present. Among the uninvited attendees was Dylan Black, a man with a checkered past. Black had already built a reputation for violence, with previous charges of assault and burglary on his record. What unfolded next would forever alter the course of Felita's life. The stakes in this story are clear from the outset. Felita's life, full of promise and potential, was cut short by a man who couldn't handle rejection. Her family's fight for justice pits them against a justice system that appears indifferent to their pleas. The lingering question: will her killer be held accountable? Or will Felita become another statistic of violence and neglect? Dylan Black's unwelcome advances on Felita that night were the catalyst for a deadly confrontation. Felita, strong-willed and independent, refused his advances. This rejection enraged Black, who escalated the situation from verbal harassment to physical violence. Multiple men, including Black, began to assault Felita. They tore at her clothes, pulled her hair, and inflicted injuries that would have left anyone terrified and helpless. But Felita fought back, defending herself with every ounce of strength. Amidst this violent altercation, one of Felita's cousins stepped in to try and protect her. However, Black, now fully enraged, drew a gun. 4 shots rang out in quick succession. Felita was hit multiple times, including in the upper torso. She collapsed as the chaos around her continued to unfold. What if a gathering with friends could suddenly turn deadly? A young woman's life was ended in seconds, and the killer still walks free. Would you demand justice if this was your daughter, your sister, your friend?
Police complaint in the shooting death of an Amarillo woman August 31st paints a picture of a wave of lives that surveillance video contradicts. Dylan Black is charged with murder, and the complaint tells a police version of what happened when a man was wounded and Felita Bailey died near 13th and South Avondale.
Felita was rushed to the hospital, but despite the best efforts of medical professionals, her injuries were too severe. She was pronounced dead shortly after arriving. The loss was immediate and overwhelming for her family, especially her mother, Odessa Bailey. But the pain did not stop there. In the days following Felita's murder, her family was not notified by police or the hospital. In a grotesque oversight, her body was mistakenly released to an unauthorized funeral home, leaving her mother, Odessa, in a state of frantic confusion and devastation. How could this happen? How could the authorities fail so profoundly in notifying the family of the victim? These questions, left unanswered, only deepen the sense of injustice felt by Felita's loved ones.
It says about 40 people came uninvited to a late-night party where a man was dragged into the street and beaten. That's when 4 shots rang out, wounding the man in the leg. Despite what Black said happened, video from several sources tell the story. After his arrest Sunday in Bushland, the complaint says he continued to change stories. Police found the clothes he was wearing and the suspected gun at a home in Amarillo. A witness led them to that gun.
How does a mother go on after learning of her child's murder through the news? Where is the justice when the system seems intent on silencing her pain? Despite the overwhelming evidence, including multiple witness testimonies and video footage, Dylan Black was arrested and released just days after Felita's murder. The charges against him were dropped due to insufficient evidence, according to Officer James Clemens. This decision sent shockwaves through the Amarillo community and infuriated Felita's family. How could a man who had a known history of violence and who had been caught on camera be released? The failure of the justice system to prosecute Black effectively has left Felita's family in a state of constant fear. Dylan Black, a man with a violent past, now walks free. Odessa, Felita's mother, has repeatedly taken to social media, pleading for justice and transparency, but her calls have been largely brushed aside. When justice is denied, what recourse do grieving families have? How can we trust a system that releases a known killer back into the streets?
In the midst of my daughter being assaulted by these young men, a family member who was there assisted my child to try to help to protect her from all of these men that were jumping on her.
Odessa has become the voice for her daughter, vowing that Felita's death will not be forgotten or swept under the rug. She has organized rallies, spoken at community events, and used social media platforms to keep Felita's story alive. For her, this fight is not just about justice for Felita. It's about ensuring that no other mother has to endure the pain and frustration she has faced. Odessa's pain is palpable in her public statements. She has recounted in painful detail how the authorities have failed her family at every turn. From failing to properly notify them of Felita's death to mishandling her body and ultimately allowing her killer to walk free. This is not just a fight against Dylan Black. It is a fight against a broken system that seems more interested in protecting the perpetrator than delivering justice to the victim. How far would you go to seek justice for your child? Would you keep fighting when the very system designed to protect you turns its back? Felita's death has sent shockwaves through the Amarillo community. Her friends and family, as well as local activists, have rallied around Odessa in support, organizing protests and marches demanding justice for Felita. They have called out the systemic racism and negligence that they believe played a role in the mishandling of the case. Felita's murder and the subsequent release of Dylan Black have highlighted the deep racial and socio-economic divides in Amarillo. For many in the community, this case represents a pattern of injustice. This system seems to devalue the lives of people of color, particularly women, and allows their killers to walk free. When a community comes together in the face of injustice, can they make a difference? Or will the cries for justice continue to be ignored? Felita Bailey's story is one that no family should have to tell. It is a story of a young woman's life, full of promise, stolen in an instant by senseless violence. It is also a story of a mother's unwavering determination to seek justice, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Odessa's fight is far from over, but she refuses to give up. She will not allow her daughter's death to be forgotten or dismissed. As we reflect on Felita's life and the injustice her family has faced, we must also ask ourselves, how can we create a system that values every life equally? How can we ensure that justice is truly impartial and not influenced by race, class, or power?
22-year-old Dylan Black was arrested and charged with murder, but was later released due to insufficient evidence. When we spoke with APD Homicide Unit Commander Lieutenant Clements on September 9th, he said they're still waiting on ballistics.
But we want to make sure that we know exactly what happened on that scene 100%.
Will Felita Bailey's killer ever face the justice he deserves? Will her family's fight for accountability be enough to change a broken system? Or will her story become yet another chapter in the long history of injustice in America? Please share Felita's story. Let's amplify Odessa's call for justice and ensure that Felita's name is remembered. Together, we can be part of the solution.